What's going on, guys? We got another one for you tonight. Let's get it going. Alright guys, so I wasn't originally going to record this project just because I got a bunch of little projects I'm trying to get done, but I don't recall doing a cast aluminum repair on the channel yet, so let's do it. Alright, so here's what we got. This is a bracket for a running board on the side of a pickup truck. And the story goes they were out hunting elk, and apparently they were hunting elk and they bailed out of the truck, and apparently in the hustle and bustle of trying to get out of the truck in a hurry, schwack, they broke the bracket. So the good news is it's going to be really easy to match it up where it goes. And I think what my plan is I'll go ahead and get a wire wheel and I'll buff off the powder coat. But I'm going to start by prepping the sides, and I'll get it tacked on the sides to hold it together, and then I'll be able to go ahead and gouge the rest of the crack out on both sides. That's how we'll weld it up. Now there is a little bit of a trick to this one. So this right here, this 90-degree angle, that has to mount to the running board. And if I go ahead and weld that crack up, you can see the crack is right in the corner. Right in the corner. The problem with that is after I get it welded, for this to fit tight on the running board, I may have to run the end mill down through there or just hit it with the grinder. We'll see how it looks, but that could be a little tricky. So we're just going to start by grabbing a wire wheel, and we're going to knock the powder coat off, get it cleaned up the best we can, and then I'm going to put it back together, make sure the crack matches up okay, and then we will try to get our tacks on the outside. With that being said, let's roll out the Dynasty. Alright, so we got that all prepped up. Typically, with cast aluminum, you want to preheat it. Now, we're not going to hit it with the torch just because I don't want to heat up the whole part and mess up the powder coat. So I'm just going to kind of walk the arc around the crack, and that way, that'll do two things. It'll help clean the contaminants out of where the crack is. It'll also help preheat the part. That's what we're gonna do now. So I'll go ahead and get the machine rolled out. We'll get this tacked up, and then you'll probably see me going through and preheating it. And then once we get that done, we'll come back and give you guys an update. All right, guys, I do wanna show you what settings I'm using. So we're running our AC frequency at 80 Hertz. The other cool thing about this machine is it walks you through, it'll tell you kind of where you need to be. It'll give you a ballpark. It's not going to tell you exactly where you need to be, but you can see right here it explains it. It says increase for a more focused narrow arc cone, and then in parentheses it says fillets and thin material, and then below it says decrease to soften and widen the arc cone for outside corner and thicker material. So we did decrease it. 115 Hertz I think is where it was when I first turned it on, and I haven't touched it, so we're going to turn it down to 80 Hertz, and you can see as you do that, if you watch this little image here, it changes what the tungsten looks like. As we decrease it, the ball on the tungsten gets bigger, and as we increase it, it gets smaller and the arc cone gets narrower. So we're going to start at 80 and see how that goes. Okay, our AC balance, it does the same thing here. It walks you through, tells you where you want to be, we're at 65%. We decreased it because we want more cleaning. This is pretty dirty, nasty material, or at least it looks like it. I assume it's not going to be real fun to weld. And so I want higher cleaning action, so I want to decrease my AC balance. So we're going to try that at 65%. The AC waveform, there's multiple settings on this machine. We are going to start with a soft square. Most of your older machines are just a square wave. So we are going to start with a soft square and see how it goes. I haven't really messed around with a lot of these more advanced like triangle and all that stuff. So I'm just going to start with what I'm comfortable with and what I know. So we're going to start with a soft square and that should do it. So we're going to go home. We got it set at 200 amps. You can see we're on AC TIG, high freak start, 332 tungsten. So let's give it a try. Alright guys, so I just wanted to take a quick second and I wanted to introduce a new segment that I've created here on the channel. My reasoning for creating this new segment is because I feel like there's a need to discuss something that is quite frequent in social media today. You know, it used to be when I grew up, before social media, before cell phones, if you said something, if something came out of your mouth, you were going to have to deal with the consequences of whatever it was that came out of your mouth. And it seems like today we find ourselves in a situation where there are no repercussions for people who want to tear other people down. And it doesn't matter what platform or what channel or, you know, Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, it doesn't matter which one. It happens on all of them. The problem that I see with this is if we continue to let this go on and there are no consequences or repercussions for people's actions on negative things that they say to people, it's just going to continue to get worse. I feel like in a lot of cases, these people are jealous or insecure or whatever it may be. And I think part of the reason that the golden rule used to work was because if you didn't follow the golden rule, there was consequences. If you said something about somebody, you were going to deal with those consequences. And back then it meant something because if you didn't do that, most of the time there was consequences and you were going to deal with them. My point in creating this segment is I want to take the negativity and the hate that is so prevalent in society today, and I would like to make it constructive. And I thought to myself, how can we take this negativity and hate and make it something constructive? And so what I want to do is I want to take someone's negative, nasty comment, and I would just like to talk about it. I would like to go over what they said and why I think it's wrong. And that's something all of us can learn from, myself included. My hope is that we can have an effect on the group of people out there that watches the channel, to the point where, obviously, if you don't have something nice to say, don't say it at all. If you're not interested in the channel, if you don't like the channel, move on. Go watch another channel. Go watch a channel that you do enjoy. Go watch a channel that's not going to drive you crazy. Go watch a channel that you're not going to have to correct and tell them everything they're doing wrong. Because to be honest, the negativity and the hate, all that does is fuel the fire for people like me. That's one of the goals that I have for this segment, is I want to show other people, specifically the younger generation that watches the channel, you are always going to have haters no matter what you do. Don't let it get to you. Don't let it change your opinion on what you're able to do in life. Use it as fuel for the fire. Sadly, I don't think we're getting rid of it because it's so easy for people to complain about other people today with no repercussions. And I just want to be clear, this segment is not for those people who wish to offer some friendly advice. Hey, I don't know if you knew this, but hey, just letting you know, those types of people, I completely understand and I appreciate. There's nothing wrong with that. I'm talking about the people that just flat out want to hate. They get on the comment section and then they want to tell me everything that I'm doing wrong and how my channel is just terrible or the work that I'm doing is terrible. Those types of people are the people that I feel like we need to talk about. So that's my purpose in making this segment. I hope you guys will see the positivity out of it. This is not me complaining about people that are hating on me. This is me trying to take the negativity and the hate, flip it around. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about why this is wrong. And maybe, just maybe, it'll stop someone else from hating on someone else for them just trying to better their situation and offer the world some sort of small entertainment or education. This is for all those people who just can't stand to see somebody else succeed or somebody else prosper. This is for all those people who just can't stand to keep it in and not say something demeaning. This is for all those people who just can't stand to keep their negative thoughts and feelings to themselves. My hope is that when people watch this segment, they can take what we've talked about and use it in their life to give them ambition to follow their dreams. But also, I think we can also learn to support each other and to be happy for each other. And I also think sometimes it's okay to keep your thoughts inside your head. They don't always have to come out your mouth. So this is a segment dedicated to all those people I'd like to call Fabri-Haters. All right, so for today's Fabri-Hater comment, this one comes in from Rick Castillo 7605. And he says, was really interested in your post until I saw that Trump banner. Wish you would have kept your politics out of post. And for that, I'm out. Okay, so here's the thing. There's been quite a few comments about it. Some like it, some don't. But isn't that the case with everything? We all have the ability and the freedom to worship how we want and to support who we want for president and all those other great things about this country. And if you can't get over the fact that I support someone that you don't, well, then this ain't the channel for you. The whole point of this channel is we can all come together and we can all enjoy a common interest that we have in fabrication. I don't talk religion. I don't talk politics. I leave that out of it. Do I have an opinion? Sure I do. You guys do too. But I leave that out of it. Yes, I hang a flag in my shop, but like I said, I live here, and the way I look at it, I'm just exercising my right and my freedom, and I'm grateful for those things, so I'm going to continue to do it. So now I want to share with you guys what my response was to this comment. So my response was, if you can't watch a video, which you clearly had interest in, because I hang a flag in my shop that you politically disagree with, then you have a long, tough road ahead. I was under the assumption that we could act like adults and come together on YouTube with people of common interests and share our talents with each other. But I guess in your case, that's not so. I think you forgot that I live here. Because of this great land that I live in, and because of the men and women who fought and bled and died for those freedoms that both you and I enjoy, I get to proudly hang whatever flag I want on my property, just like you do. That is a privilege and a freedom that I do not take lightly, and I do not take it for granted. I don't share my opinion on religion or politics on this channel, but yes, I do have flags that hang in my shop that express my opinions, interests, and passions. If one or more of my flag offends you to the point that you can't watch my channel and support an honest, hardworking, patriotic, God-fearing father and husband, self-made business owner, then you're better off taking your sensitive and delicate emotions elsewhere. This channel is for people who may not agree on everything, but can still come together and celebrate our freedom. And that's exactly how I feel. So I hope you guys can see my point. I think we can all take a lesson out of this book, and I think we can all accept the fact that we're not all going to agree on every subject or policy or person running for president or whatever it may be. But that's not the point of this channel, and I don't feel like I have made it a point on my channel ever. So we can all come together and we can enjoy fabrication. No matter what religion we are or person we vote for, we can be friends sharing a common interest, and that's how I feel. If we can all adopt this mindset, I think it would make the world a better place. So that's going to wrap up today's Fabri-Haters segment. Let's get back to the project. All right, so I did wipe my part down with acetone, and I was going to show you guys, this looks like kind of a crappy casting. There's a bunch of holes in this, so I'm not real impressed by the quality of the casting on this. We'll see what happens. You can see there's not a whole lot I can do about that. I've wiped it down with acetone. I tried pouring some in there, and that didn't really work. But there's some dirt down in those cracks, so I'm just going to have to rely on the machine to get that out. Sometimes there's nothing you can do. Now, we're going to tack it, and we'll gouge out what we can, but there's always going to be a little bit. So you'll just have to rely on the machine to try to burn that out, whatever you can't get. So, all right, we're gonna see if we can get this tacked here. We're gonna leave it like that in the vertical position, and I'm gonna see if I can get a tack on the side of it. I am using 4043 332 aluminum TIG rod. That's typically what I use for repairs like this. Let's see what we can do here. Hey, it is dirty, nasty material. It's gonna be as fun as I thought. Okay, my tacks look terrible, so I'm gonna go ahead and kind of buff those off a little bit, and then I'm gonna try to get some on the opposite corners, and then we'll start gouging those out. So I'm using a brand new flapper disc, so I know it's not cross-contaminated. Oof, that is ugly. And it is dirty. All right, I just turned my frequency down to 60. I want to see if that helps. I want to see if I can get one. I'm afraid if I keep grinding on this, it's going to vibrate those tacks and break them. So I'm going to see if I can get pass on this side. Okay, so we did get pass on there. Like I said, it's not pretty, but it is working, and that is dirty. That aluminum is freaking dirty. Now I'm going to try to do the same thing on this side. I'm going to gouge this out and then try to get a solid pass in there. That way at least I know it's going to hold while I get the rest of this gouged out. Oof. Man, that is dirty. All right, so that's gonna hold. I'm trying to decide if I should wait for the carbide burrs to show up. It's gonna be a lot easier to gouge this out, I think. I was thinking about just jamming a grinder wheel in that corner and gouging it out real deep, but I just think it's gonna be easier with the carbide burr. Same with this side. There's just the only tool that I can use to get in there is carbide burr. So we may have to just wait to finish this one. At least it's fit up. We know it's good where it's at, but we really haven't even started the repair because we've got to gouge that whole thing out and get the weld nice and deep to where it's going to hold. That's probably going to be it then for now. We'll catch up with you guys once we get the carbide burrs set. Alright guys, we're going to see if we can't get something else done on our running board bracket. So I did get carbide burr here. This is an aluminum carbide burr. So you can see the flutes on it are a lot larger, and that's to help keep it from getting gummed up with that aluminum because it's so soft. If you were to do it with just a regular burr, it would probably get all plugged up and gummed up with aluminum, and it just doesn't grind quite as good. So we're going to use this, and we're going to gouge the crack out. So we're going to use this along with this other one. This little one just kind of has a ball on the end of it, and my plan is to just use that one to start and get a nice groove going, and then we'll step up to the big boy and we'll start getting a pretty good gouge going there, and then we'll be able to pile our weld in there and give it some extra strength and get it to the point to where I feel comfortable that it's going to hold. On this side, we're going to do the same thing. We'll start with this little one, and we'll get a good groove going on that crack, gouge the whole thing out, and then we'll see what we can get done with the big one. So that's kind of my plan. So I'm going to start there. I'm going to grab my Milwaukee die grinder. We'll get our carbide burr put in here, and we'll start gouging this out and see where we can get. So let's do it. Alright guys, quick update. Hopefully you can see my gouges. Got them fairly deep. I did gouge out these two upright pieces here. I will gouge out the sides after we get these larger sections done. That's gouged out pretty good, and it's nice and clean. So I'm hoping it runs a little better now that we've got it all gouged out. We're down to clean metal, or at least more clean metal. You can see that there is, hopefully you guys can see that, but there's some little, you know, like porosity. It's probably part of the crack too, but cast is just that way. You'll find little hidden treasures underneath the surface there that you'll quickly realize how fun they are to deal with once you strike an arc. So I'm not going to grind this out. Once I get this welded out to where it looks decent, I'm going to leave it. If I weld it and it looks like crap, I'm going to weld it, then I'm going to grind it, then I'm going to weld it, I'll grind it and weld it until there's enough good, clean aluminum in there that I'll end up with at least a good looking bead. So that's kind of my plan. So I'll get the Dynasty rolled out, we'll get it set up, and we'll get after it. Here we go. Alright, we got the Dynasty hooked up and turned it on. So the first thing I'm going to do, I want to preheat this a little bit. So I'm going to take my torch, which we are using 332 tungsten. You can see I've got it balled a little bit on the end. I know that's a little controversial. Some people like to do it, some people don't. I do like a little bit of a ball on the end of it. My gas is argon running at about 30 to 35 CFH. I'm using 332 4043 aluminum TIG rods. First thing I want to do is I want to take my torch and just kind of walk it back and forth over this joint and try to burn the impurities out that I can. That's also going to preheat it. So we're going to do that first. We'll see how this goes. Okay, so it went about like I thought. That brought all sorts of crud to the surface. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my carbide burr again. I'm going to grind that out again, clean that out again, and then we're going to try to put some filler in and see how it goes.
It's time for today's super cool tool.
Alright guys, so for today's super cool tool, we got a pretty quick one. So what I want to talk about is carbide burrs. That was a huge part of this project, and without the carbide burr, it would have made a lot of tasks on this specific project really tough to do. And I think it's important to point out there are specific types of carbide burrs for specific types of material. There are aluminum carbide burrs that are specifically made to be able to throw the material that they collect out of the flutes so that they don't get bound up and quit cutting. And we did have some issues where we had to pick the flutes out on this one, but I think that was because the material was still hot and tacky. I do think having different shapes and sizes of carbide burr bits in your shop is going to help you as you work on fabrication projects. And I'll show you a couple things that I have here. I do have a set here, and it's made by Astro Pneumatic. I actually ordered this through Zorro Tools, and this set was $75. It's nice because it comes in a case. I do like it when tools have a case. You guys know this. I think it helps keep you from losing them. So this set has 8 different bits. This set is 1/4 inch shank. I prefer 1/4 inch shank because that's what my die grinders. I do believe they make 1/8 inch shank bits, but I don't have anything that uses an 1/8 inch shank. So you can see there's different shapes and sizes there. So I did get that set. I also got this set, and this is something that I have ran into where I've needed these. This is one of those tools where you'll run into special situations where you really could use a carbide burr that has a really long shank on it so that you could get down inside a piece of tube or pipe or whatever and knock the burr off something. And so these have a 6-inch shank on them. They are easier to bend, so you got to be careful, but for certain situations, this can really come in handy. There are 4 different designs in this set. This set was $125, but I do believe it has a lifetime warranty. And I also ordered this set off Zorro Tools. So you can see the different sizes there. I also have my aluminum carbide bit here, and it worked very well. They are expensive. This one bit was $50, and I picked it up at my local welding store. So I just wanted to talk about these. Carbide burrs are definitely a welding and fabrication tool. So this is one of those things that's really going to help you out if you've got to do a cast repair, you need to gouge something out, or if you've got some burrs inside a pipe or tube that you've got to remove. That's where this tool is going to come in handy. At some point, you're going to run into a situation where you're going to need one of these at one point or another if you do fabrication. So pick yourself up a set of carbide burrs. You're not going to regret it. That's going to come in handy sooner or later. So that's going to wrap up our super cool tool segment today. Let's get back to the project. All right, well, that really opened up that crack, so this could be interesting. Went about like I thought. Terrible. Now I've got to grind it back out and try to run another one on top of it until I feel like it's actually kind of cleaning up. But you can see it's pretty ugly. There's all sorts of pinholes. There's all sorts of gray crap on top of that. This is a typical cast repair. Aluminum cast repairs suck. They're difficult because the material is not pure. There's all sorts of impurities that can get introduced into the casting when it's made, especially when it's a crack on something like a running board. Now you've got salt from the roads and dirt and all sorts of other stuff that you're introducing into that crack, and it's just hard to get it out because it's such a porous material. I'm gonna grind this out again and then run another one. We'll see how it goes. Okay, that one went a lot better. I actually feel pretty good about that one. You see how much better that one flowed in? I mean, there's still some crud on the surface, but it wetted in there pretty good. So I feel good about that. Now, I'm gonna have to machine this back to a 90-degree surface. So it used to come down like this, and then it was a 90-degree surface. So I may have to put this in the mill and just run a pass on it and machine it back to square. But I do feel good about that weld. So now I'm gonna flip it over and start fighting the other side. Okay, that went exactly the same as the other side. Real nasty, dirty, sticking out my tungsten just a little bit more on this side because it's a tight space and I got to be able to get in there. Okay, same thing on this one, just nasty, bubbling all sorts of crap up from the surface. So now I'm gonna take my carbide burr again, hit it again, gouge it out again, try to get down to fresh material, and then we'll see if it'll accept some filler rod. Alright guys, this is the woes of welding cast. So, I don't know if you can see it, but that is all gummed up with aluminum. So I'm taking my little center punch here, and if I dig at this, once you get it peeled out of there, okay, so hopefully you can see that. That is a big chunk of aluminum that is jammed up in that cutting edge. And that's the whole reason I bought the aluminum carbide bit, but I'm still fighting it. And I think part of the reason that I'm fighting it is because the aluminum is still hot, so it's kind of gummy. I don't like having to wait in between, because it takes you twice as long. Because then you let it cool down, and then you grind it, and then you got to reheat it, and then weld it. And if you are having to do this multiple times, I'm just going to go through and dig these out. Once you get them to start, they actually pop out of there pretty good. So I'll get this all cleared out, and then we'll come back and show you what it looks like. Alright guys, I've got that all ground out again. There's still some real good looking spots in there. Some nice pinholes. So we're going to try and lay a bead in there. I think what I'll do is I'll just run a couple passes in here, and then I'll fill these corners up, and that'll just have to be good enough. I am going to build the outside up a little bit more, and then once I get it to that point, I'm ready to mill this out. So let's see if we can get this part welded out, and then we'll see about getting this milled out. Alright guys, hey, like a mini backhoe. Here's what it looks like. You can see I still got that weld in there that I got to machine out to give it a 90-degree angle. The sides turned out alright. The back, you can see I kind of just piled it in there. I just had to stack beads on top of each other right there. I feel like that's good because it gives it more mass. I did gouge it out and I got that filled in, so I feel like it's reinforced at the base metal, but I've also given it more mass by building up the thickness of the material there. Way back in there, I can't get in there, so this is just how it's gonna have to be. I did polish it up best I could. Okay, so now I've got to take it over to the mill, and I got to mill that 90-degree angle out. So getting this set up to where it's not going to move is going to be the hard part. So I'm going to go over there and tinker with that for a minute, see if I can figure out how I'm going to do this, and then we'll get back to you guys. Alright guys, we got our R8 end mill adapter in with a 9/16 end mill. I've got the bracket in the vise like so. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to get this weld machined off, and it's aluminum, so it should be fairly simple, fairly straightforward. I've squared it with the bit, and I have to let it sit in here to get cool, and it's just about there. So we'll go ahead and do this now, and then we'll come back and give you guys a look when it's done. Alright guys, here's the next dose of good news. So if you can see that, there's all kinds of lovely pinholes there. So I'm gonna have to gouge it out again, re-weld it, remachine it, and see how it looks. And I'm probably just gonna have to keep doing that until the pinholes go away. This is the joys of welding cast. I'm gonna go ahead and just start gouging it out, lay another one in it. I should be able to know depending on how it flows. I was kind of under the assumption that this is what it was gonna look like, because you can tell when you're laying it in there if it's gonna lay in there smooth or if it's gonna be ugly like this. And with this cast, there really hasn't been a whole lot of surprises as far as once I weld it out, I kind of know that it's gonna look like crap once you start grinding on it. And this one's no different. So I'm just gonna have to gouge it out, run it again. The more passes I put in, the higher concentration of good material there's gonna be in there. I'm just gonna go back to it. We'll put it in time lapse and I'll see how many times it takes. We'll give you guys a look once we get this figured out. Alright guys, let's give you one last look here. We got it all polished up. We got rid of all the pinholes that we could. The inside here looks pretty dang good. Got rid of just about everything that looks suspect. I actually had to weld that up 2 more times and machine it out 2 more times, but that's what it looks like now, so I feel pretty good about that. Any sort of cast aluminum repair is going to be a tough one. Cast is just really hard to work with. It's dirty. When it's casted, there are other sorts of impurities that can get introduced into the metal. So it's just a very tough material to work with. So that's going to wrap this one up. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Hope you guys learned something. Remember to like, subscribe, and share. And we'll see you on the next one. And then once I tack it, I'm just going to take the cup and I'm going to walk the arc over the... You can see here it says increase for a more focused arc. You can see right here it says increase for a more... Alright guys, we're going to see if we can't get something else done on our step side. Alright guys, we're going to see if we can't get something else done on our... Alright guys, we're going to see if we can't get something else done on our... Goodness! And that's just going to have to be what it is. And that's just going to have to be... And that'll just have to be good enough.